Hello and welcome to the Leave a Legacy podcast, where we go beneath the skin of some of the UK's most exciting entrepreneurs to see what makes them tick, what the future holds and how they got to where they are today. This podcast is powered by Kurogo, so special thank you to those guys. We hope you enjoy. Good afternoon and welcome back to the Leave a Legacy podcast. I'm joined today by advisory panel member, we'll get that in first, CEO and founder of Pleesecakes, Joe Moruzzi. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good, I'm good.
Good, a busy man, most in-demand man in the country at the moment, I think. Just constantly supporting people, panels, talks, especially for us. So
yeah, I love it.
So the point of today and the point of these podcasts is that we want to go beneath the surface of our founders and our community to find out what makes them tick, what inspired them to start their businesses, how it happened, and where they've gone with their own personal and business growth over the last X amount of years that they've been in business. And what we like to do is go back to where it all began. I mean, pre-working days, pre-career. Where's Joe from? Where did Joe grow up, and what sort of surroundings?
So I was born in Sutton, which is just outside of London. And then I moved out to Epsom with my family. So got my mum and dad and my sister, who's 2 years younger than me. And for me as a kid, it was sort of a great upbringing, you know. My mum and dad were very hard working, you know. They were always working. My mum was doing night shifts. She would work all the time. My dad was in the music business actually, and then he became a builder because he didn't succeed in the business. But he was super busy as well, really, really busy. I always remember him just working all the time. I used to have au pairs and people because they were out working all the time, trying to support the family. So that was sort of a big memory for me, just like constant working, all the time working, always kind of like not struggling for money, but like always chasing that money to try and support the family, to always give us nice things, to take us on holidays. But a very loving family, you know. Like I grew up with a lot of love and support and freedom, I suppose. You know, like I was never forced to do anything.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, you can do what you want. Like with restrictions, they tried to put a good head on my shoulders, but never forced into doing something I didn't want to do, which was really important for me, and kind of allowed me to sort of find my own path and likes and dislikes and passions and hobbies and things like that along the way. So
what was schooling like for you? Do you enjoy it, or is it something you just couldn't wait to get out of?
A bit of both, you know. Like and this will probably go into this in terms of business. Like I like school. I like certain elements of school. So I like the practical side of things. So like PE and being like involved in something and being really sort of like probably using up my energy a little bit. And then I love the creative side of things. So like art was a really big thing for me, and being creative. But I didn't like being told what to do. So I hated like being controlled. And that's I suppose why I've started my own business.
Yeah.
So I don't have to.
Yeah.
Like speak to
it's
sort of like,
quite a common trait with founders that they didn't like it.
But I liked it. I did like it. I finished school after the GCSEs. That's when I finished. I left school then. No, I was never forced to do my A levels or go to university. And I don't know if it's a regret that I didn't go to university. I'd love to have experienced it, but I don't feel like I missed out or it affected my success or my long term sort of ambitions by not going to university. So. Yeah, I liked it. I liked school. I met some good people. Some of my great friends now are from school.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a passion of mine. It was that control that I wanted to get out of, I suppose. So yeah, after that I left and did my own thing.
So a nice, hard-working family upbringing. You're in school. Not your favourite place in the world, but you enjoy certain pieces of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like life, isn't it, really, in general? But then, what's your first foray into the working world? What's your first job when you come out of school?
I actually started working before that, like a Saturday job. Okay. So I worked in a furniture shop in Reigate Village, in a pine shop, which was owned by my mum and dad's friends. And I used to work there on a Saturday. I think I got about 25 quid a day, and I used to help behind the counter. I used to go out on deliveries and move stuff around in the little warehouse. It was a very sort of like small village furniture shop, really beautiful. But every Saturday I'd go in there, and that was my sort of introduction into the work, getting a bit of money in, getting a bit of pocket money in. And then that kind of progressed. But as soon as I left school, I was into my fitness then. So I was playing a lot of sports. I was playing squash my granddad actually got me into sport. He was a massive, like, loved his sport, was an MCC member for the cricket. Like, I used to go to Lords all the time, loved his football, squash, all that. It was like very sport heavy. And he got me into squash, and I started playing a lot of squash, coaching, and I got into the Surrey team, so I was playing county squash, doing competitions, and as a junior, and then I started coaching around the private schools around the area. So I was very into my fitness back then, and then I wanted to do like a PT course to try and take it a little bit further. Ended up becoming a lifeguard, actually. Yeah, I was a lifeguard. So I did a lifeguard course.
This is going to be incredible.
Honestly, there's more. There's more coming up, don't worry. Lifeguard. So I was a lifeguard at David Lloyd in Epsom for maybe a year. I think about a year. Boring job. Like,
yeah,
it's so boring. It's so humid in there as well. You're like, you get drowsy. Yeah, it's not a massively uplifting job. You know, you're stuck in there doing it. But it was that's what I did for a period of time. What else did I do after that? I did a lot of bar work. So okay. I did bar work when I was a little bit older than that, obviously. I actually moved over to New Zealand for a period of time to do like events. I was working in like helping host event nights and stuff like that with a group of pals. And then I came back, and then I became a landscape gardener.
Oh my goodness!
For a year.
How long have we got?
I know, I've got a few. There's probably about 2 or 3 more coming in now. So yeah, I was a landscape gardener. I actually kind of liked it because it was quite physical, outdoorsy, not great in the winter, but like it was a job. I did that for about a year, and then this is where I actually, again, trying to like in that creative space, I wanted to become a stuntman. So I started doing the stunt register. Right. So there's like 6 different disciplines to get onto the UK stunt register. There's like falling, fighting, driving or riding, water like swimming or scuba diving or whatever it is. So I started doing that. I was doing like high diving at Crystal Palace, and and you have to get like 60 days in front of camera as part of the register. So I did the last 3 Harry Potter films as extras, did like X-Men, like War Horse, did loads of films.
Is this an exclusive, Joe? We've got an exclusive on this story.
I think I've never heard this. I don't tell it. I don't have enough time normally to tell it. But yeah, it was something I was doing for quite a long period of time. Again, it was something that cost money though. So like you have to get to an expert level in each of these disciplines. So if you're doing a fighting discipline, i.e. kickboxing, which what I was doing, you have to be black belt. So you have to fund this, and you're doing like 6 different disciplines. Right. So it costs money. So I had to get another job, didn't I? And I fell into painting and decorating. That's when I fell in. I was probably about 23 then when I fell into painting and decorating.
It's safe to say that you're not scared to try anything then.
No.
You know, and obviously you want to work, and you wanted to earn money from a very early stage. And they're not your run-of-the-mill jobs, were they? You know, lifeguard, stuntman.
Yeah, I wanted to be a pilot as well. I think that was an early age dream.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
But then I started learning about it. I did a couple of lessons like up at Biggin Hill, and I was reading all the manuals and learning like all about it. But that just cost.
Are you one of those people, Jack, that if you want to do something, you will go and you'll put everything into it. You'll learn everything. You want to find out all the intricacies of it, so that you kind of got that edge. I
think so. I think unless I've got to have to be passionate about it. I think if I'm really passionate about something, I'll go into it. If I'm not passionate about it, I lose interest very quickly. Right. I've got a really short attention span. I don't know what it is, but I find it hard to do like certain things that require my attention if I'm not interested.
For a long period of time.
Yeah, if I'm not interested.
So were there any sort of role models or inspirations when you were starting out as a young man? Were you looking to emulate anyone, or is there any people in business, for example, you thought, you know what, that's someone that I'd like to get to that level, regardless of what they did?
There wasn't anyone specifically back then. I think there was the obvious ones, people like Richard Branson, I suppose, that were like entrepreneurial. And I think it's become more prevalent now in terms of it's quite a big space for entrepreneurs. But there was no one specifically in terms of like that inspired. I just always wanted to try and achieve something. I was always driven. I was always wanted to do. I never wanted. What scared me most, I suppose, was having a 9-to-5 job with no possibility of growth and progression and learning and stimulation and all that sort of thing, you know. So I would try anything just to find what I was really passionate about, I suppose. But over the years, I think there's been some incredible role models along the way. personally in my immediate family, some incredible people that inspire me, but also like professionally, people like the Steve Bartletts and the Ben Francis are the obvious ones because they're kind of like relatable to our generation, I suppose.
I suppose it's quite nice that you come full circle in that with the Richard Branson piece, looking up to him, and that now you're doing stuff with Virgin Startup. And,
well, exactly that. Yeah, it's incredible this journey that I've been on through the product that we produce is on paper it's just a cheesecake, you know. It's just a cheesecake. It's a generic dessert, and it's taken me on this journey and allowed me to meet some incredible people, have some incredible experiences, and do some incredible things. You know, like it is quite odd. You wouldn't write it on paper, would you?
No, especially the lifeguard bit.
No.
So if we look at the painting and decorating, so you go into business with a friend?
No, so I worked for Brendan, who had been in painting and decorating for a long time. So that was his first job, and he's still doing it now, kind of thing. So started working for him. I can't remember. I was on 50 quid a day again, like labour kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just worked. I was a grafter. So I'm a grafter. I will work whatever hours, however hard, and not complain. Just like get on with it. That's my mindset. And eventually, he closed that business, and we started a company together. So about three or 4 years later, called Palmer, which was our two surnames, Parry and Moruzzi.
Okay.
And we were doing some big stuff, you know, like one of my pals, Jason Tracy, who's an investor in the company, is a property developer. So we were doing big apartment blocks. We were doing footballers' houses, John Terry's house, all around like Cobham, Misha. So it was growing. Like we had maybe 10 or 15 guys working for us. We were doing some big jobs. But again, like that was my sort of first real sort of introduction into running a business, doing VAT returns, like wages, like overheads, cash flow, all that. Yeah, all that. That was probably where I learned a lot. And to be fair, there was quite a lot of transferable skills that I took into Pleesecakes probably. That got to a point. So like we ran that, and I was doing this side hustle. I was making these cakes on the side, and it was then when I was about 29. And it was coming up to Christmas. It was December. It was cold. It was like, all right, the New Year's coming. I was just searching for something that I was passionate about. So I wasn't passionate about painting. It
was going back to that old Joe again, wasn't it? Where you actually wanted to find something to really love.
Getting into your feet kind of thing. Like I was like, oh, what can I do? Painting was going well, but it was like I wasn't passionate. I wasn't driven. There was no real purpose to what I was doing.
How long were you painting and decorating for?
So from about 23 to about 29.
Okay. And then the Pleesecakes bit we'll fall into in a second, but what was the first Pleesecake or cheesecake it would have been at the time, because Pleesecakes didn't exist. What was the first cheesecake you made and why?
So the first cheese, it was in 2015, and we were speaking off camera just before. My dad made a cheesecake, so like he's Italian, being brought up in an Italian family. Lots of food, lots of good food. Always like it's that communal vibe on a Sunday. You all get together, you eat good food, it's indulgent, etc. But he made a cheesecake. I think it was a white chocolate and raspberry. Can't remember what it was. And it wasn't great. Like I say this quite a lot. It was moody. It wasn't a great cheesecake. He's not a trained chef.
It's Italian. It goes with the nature.
It was fine, you know, like it was fine. But then I proceeded to make one. You know, like it was just, I don't know what drove me to make the cheesecake specifically, because we'd had various other desserts on a Sunday before, but I saw it was quite an easy entry. It was a no-bake cheesecake, so I didn't have to bake anything. It was quite an easy entry. I proceeded to make one, and again, it was just moody. It wasn't a great cake. Like, I've never been on a cake decorating course. I've never been to catering college or done any sort of any course that's allowed me skills to do this. And but I was making them. You know, I just continued to make them, and I think the first one I made was a peanut butter and Nutella one with my girlfriend, who's still my girlfriend, Ellie. And this is the first time she came round to the house, and we made it together. And it was flat. There was no toppings, and the base. Like I tell this quite a lot. So I made them in springform tins. So you've got like a separate base, and it opens up around the side. I could never get the base off the cakes. So every time I sent one out to friends and family, I'd have to buy a new tin every single time, which obviously is not a great start to business, was it?
But this is going back before Pleesecakes existed.
Yeah, going back before. Yeah. So I was doing this over probably a 2-year period. So
just friends and family.
Just friends and family. I would experiment with flavours at home. and I would bring like little pots, little ramekins, little plastic ramekins to the building site.
Right.
To the boys. So the boys would try, get feedback on the flavours, go back and then make some more. And that was over a 2-year period, so 2015 to 2016, like December 2016.
Were you charging for these cakes?
No.
You would say it was just to try and buy?
Try and buy, give them that. I'd do them for like friends' birthdays. I'd do massive ones, like 6 kilo cheesecakes, like they were massive. And that's when I started doing the decorations and like making it really fully loaded and putting all sorts of stuff on top.
So then the moment came of an Instagram account that you created.
Well, it got to a point where I thought, look, I can probably make some money on the side of this. Now I can start charging, because I thought they were getting a little bit better. And that's when I didn't have a name, I didn't have a business plan, but I thought, okay, now how can I make money? How can I like put it out to my network? And I saw social media. That's when social media was really sort of like taking off back then. And I had this notepad. I've still got it. It's sat on my desk in our HQ now, and I pull it out now and again because it reminds me of like what I was doing at the time. So in December 2016, I had this notepad, A4 notepad, and I wrote it wasn't a business plan as such. It was like custom cheesecakes, large ones, buy it in a slice, do events, build your own cheesecake, and it was like all written, all handwritten. And then I started doing the logo. And the word Pleesecakes, that was the first word I did. I never did any other names for the company. Kept writing it like just in different styles and doodling, and there was pages and pages and pages of it. And then I set up the account. I designed the logo on an app called Canva, who we've just done a global campaign with, which is mad. And then I set up this Instagram account, and the oddest transition in business that I've ever experienced, because normally it takes a little bit of time to get going.
Yeah.
So I set up this account on January the 3rd, 2017, I think it was. And I posted like 6 photos maybe of like, I started doing the little mini cheesecakes then as well, like small ones and like various different shapes and sizes, but nothing.
Are these
no
just
recipes.
photos taken on your phone?
Yeah, in my garden.
Yeah.
In my garden. Never wrote a spec, never done a recipe, haven't got a supply chain, did it in my mum's dad's bedroom, kitchen. No packaging, no health and safety, got a dog running around the lounge as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, nothing. Like, there was no intention to turn it into a business. I just wanted to like circulate it through my local community. That was my real aim. And I thought I would sell maybe 4 or 5 cakes a month. Like, that was my goal. 4 or 5 cakes a month to start. And I posted like these 6 photos, and I'm sure it was the 6th of January, so 3 days later. Obviously the page is live. Joe Wicks shared the page. I didn't ask him to. There was no plan. He just saw that I posted it. I think someone else shared the page, and then he.
Did you know him?
Yeah, I knew him.
Oh, you knew him?
Yeah. So we were friends.
Okay.
Like, so we were friends years before that, anyway. But then, like, by him sharing that page, like, there was this instantaneous growth. So like, it was an evening on a Sunday or whatever it was, but like within 24 hours we had 15,000 followers on Instagram. That's back when you could really grow organically, yeah. And then I had nothing in place, so just the Instagram account, no email address or account, no website, nothing. Yeah. And that because it was such an instant sort of demand, sort of attraction to the brand and the cakes that I was putting out. If you scroll back now, they're still there right at the start. Honestly,
it's the very first
they're still
Instagram
there.
picture still there.
They're still there. So you have a look at them if you get a moment. Really rubbish. But there was it's odd because like there was an attraction to the products. Nicky Wicks set up a Squarespace website for us, like Joe's brother. Yeah. And that night he set up an email account, and within that first day we had like 50 orders. Like people wanted to buy cakes.
So how were you going to service these orders?
So what happened is, this sounds so chaotic. So on the 6th to the 7th, I stopped painting.
Really?
Literally overnight. So like...
What, out of business?
Out of business, completely out of business, never went back to painting. Right. Like literally, Brendan was going back and running it and stuff like that. But we woke up the next morning like with these followers, sat in Bill's in Epsom, Bill's restaurant, and... It's like, look, we've got a business here. Like, there's demand. Let's act on it. Like, we could have just let it go. We could have just sort of sat back, took it a lot slower, but we didn't. We sort of, let's go for it, kind of thing. So, I literally gave my soul then to the business at that stage, and we started making it at Brendan's flat 2-bedroom masonette. So we went and bought a freezer, domestic freezer, 4 shelves. Thought that would
Just the 4?
just the little tiny ones. I probably little 4 shelves. Turned up to his flat, and his wife's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "We make cheesecake now." Like really,
Brendan was
really
in it as
abrupt.
well?
So Brendan came on board straight away, but not like full time. So he was doing the paintings, like running a few jobs that we had going. But we just, it was really abrupt, really like straight into it, and we started operating out of there. And then at Black's Burgers in Epsom, which was a friend of ours, a burger joint down in Epsom. We'd go down there 2 days. We'd load up the painting van with like some mixers and bowls and stuff, all in the paint, all like, like dust sheets and all that. Get down there, unload, do like 2 mornings there to like make stuff, and then back to his. And then I think by the February, so we've been going maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I met the first customer I met in a pub car park and gave him a bit of cash.
That. Which is one thing you do, is you live and die by your social media, right? Because it's all about you, it's the brand, and I saw that picture.
Yeah, so
and he's still a customer, right?
He's still a customer. He came in a few months ago. It's incredible. But then finally found a kitchen, like a shared kitchen in Croydon. About 9 companies in this one kitchen. Quite a big kitchen, but you only get a tiny little space. Sharing a fridge and all that's a complete nightmare. But another person that came on, which was really sort of, there's 2 people that came on at that point actually, was Sam, who is now director of operations. So she's been with me since 2 weeks after we started, and she just came down and was like, "Do you need some help on admin?" And like it was an instant sort of. We said, "Yeah, do 3 days, 3 hours a day," and she was on like 9-10 hours a day, like 7 days a week straight away. And then another guy who came on board was a guy called Ian Campbell, who was from Greg's Bakery. Like he was running 200 staff in one of their big factories.
So at what point, how long were you going when he comes in?
He came on about in that February. So about a month later, because he'd been made redundant.
Right, okay. So
and his daughter had seen us on social media, got in contact, and he came down, and he worked pretty much free. Like he just like helping out on health and safety, like our procedures, our EHO, our environmental health officer inspection and stuff like that. So like, yeah, pretty lucky, pretty lucky, and helped us for like through that period of time. But that first year, like so much happened in that first year. It was just like madness.
So what? How many cakes did you sell in your first year? Do you remember?
I can't remember exactly how many we sold, but it was thousands. It was like thousands and thousands and thousands, maybe like 10,000 cakes or something like that.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
from, a single moment in time of those posts and the right person seeing it. Which is why you're such a big advocate of social media and what it's done for you as a business, and obviously that transferring it across the different platforms has been massive for you. So let's go back to then these milestones within Pleesecakes, because there's a ton of them, right? So let's look at the royalty. When did Her Majesty come in?
All in that first year. So that first year was crazy. So like it was the book was within 3 months. So by
March, recipe book.
So yeah, like being approached by a literary agent, Madeline Milburn, in that March, like, do you want to write a book? Like, when they were 3 months old. Like,
I've been a lifeguard and a stuntman.
Yeah, and a painter decorator. Like, what else do you want to know? So yeah, that was the first sort of like big thing for us in terms of like what's going on here, something's going on. And then yeah, the Queen was in June of that year. So was it
6 months in?
Yeah, what was it? Was it the Jubilee then, or it was something for her? It was for her birthday basically. So we were in the kitchen in this dodgy kitchen in Croydon. Got a call from McVitie's, and they said, "We've got this VIP person that we want you to make a cake for." Didn't think anything of it. Was walking out of the kitchen like 6 o'clock at night or whatever it was at the end of the day, and they called back and they said, "Look, it's the Queen." So like, yeah, it was an odd experience, but because it was a blur that first year. We were like working 22 hours a day and just like zombies just in the business. We kind of just got on with it. Had an event the next day as well. We had 2 events.
Does that call to say who that cake is for? Does that then make you go, you know what, we're onto something? If the most important person in this country and others wants one of ours.
I think it was early, just seeing the demand, the attraction, the recipe book. We'd just done this morning with Phil and Holly as a hot food trend, which is our first bit of live TV, which was super scary as well. But yeah, there was a lot of attraction. Like social media, this is the thing that you say I'm an advocate for social media, but it's changed massively
Yeah.
changed. So back then, Instagram was really a good place for businesses. You know, you could really grow organically. Your reach was great. The algorithm wasn't messed up. And you could really build community on that platform. You can't now. It's a completely different platform. But we were growing like 10,000 followers a week. It was like going up and up. Like it was a really quick progression in that first year. But yeah, I knew there was an opportunity to utilize these platforms to grow as a business. And I also knew that we had a point of difference in terms of not only the product, but like just actually putting our personalities across a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of brands weren't doing that at that stage. And we were just kind of like really sort of trying to document what we were doing and like being quite transparent and authentic, you know. And that, I think that really helped us. And we were just driven. So that, yeah, we just cracked on with it. It wasn't the business was so far from being perfect. It still is. And there's still a long way. There's always development.
You've got to think that's your first year. And obviously, if you don't have anything as exciting as the Queen in the second year, it's like, oh, what's happened here?
You get a bit deflated, don't you?
But then when did the Dragons Den piece come along? Because that's a huge milestone. It's a huge part of your story as well. It's particularly where we are now when we're talking about investment all the way down the line. When did that come into your life?
So first year done. We've done the book, done this morning, done the Queen. Got Selfridges in that first year as well.
Yeah.
So Selfridges came knocking. There's another story there. I want to go into awful story. But it was that second year. So like we on this sort of a bit of expansion, we needed to try and find another unit, kitchen. I was then in early 2018 actively looking for investment because as much like we're not a tech-based product. We are physical. We're tangible. There's many moving parts to this.
Yeah.
You need money to grow. Like my ambition was never going to hold me back and say, look, let's just grow very slowly, very organically, and let's try and we don't want to scale. We don't want to grow a global brand. It was like, let's try and keep pushing. We have to keep moving. So like, I was actively looking for investment there. Based on social media, I suppose I got approached by one of the producers off Dragons Den, who invited us on basically. So I ummed and ahed about it and didn't know if it was going to be because you see they get torn apart sometimes on there, and I thought I don't know if it's going to be detrimental or how it would pan out. So I went through the process, did all the due diligence. They checked the company that were legit, and we filmed in June of that year, 2018. It didn't air till the September.
Okay, you had to keep it quiet.
Yeah, we had to keep it quiet. But it gave us really good exposure, incredible experience. You know, I was in there for 2 hours. So you walk in, you do your lift walk, on the final lift walk, the doors open.
Well, you have to do the lift walk multiple times.
Yeah. It's all like there's loads of cameras around, and you have to. It's all part of it.
Are they sat there at the time?
I don't know if you could put this out, but the lift is fake.
Yeah, just wooden doors that go like that.
It is. It's not a real lift.
Yeah.
It doesn't go up and down. It's all on my level.
Ruined it for everyone.
Can't say that. But still, look, you do the lift walk. You pretend to press the button. You go in, and then on the final take, doors open. They're all sat there. You walk up to a spot on the floor, and you start pitching. And there's no one says anything. There's not like take or cut or can we do that again or anything like that. Right. It's just you pitch and they engaged, and it was good, and it was. They saw the build your own cheesecake bar. They cut a lot out. They cut any brand out, obviously Selfridges and Book and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
It's advertisement, it's BBC, isn't it? So, got a good response. Got a really good response. There's some cracking comments on YouTube about it.
What was the offer on the day?
The offer was I went in 50 grand at 5%.
Okay.
Tuka offered me 50 grand for 35% of the business.
Okay, right.
Which would have been tragic if I did that.
It's robbery, isn't it? You can't get away with it.
It is, yeah. It's a great platform to expose your brand on, but
it's a great platform to expose your brand, even if you turn down the investment, right? Or don't get any offers.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good. If you get an offer and turn it down, that's good.
Yeah.
Like you've got interest there, and you've got exposure, you've got demand, but I don't know what the percentages of businesses that actually even offer on the show and that it doesn't go through. I think it's quite high.
Yeah, it's very high.
Very high, yeah. So, but it was just a good platform. Like it was an incredible experience again. Another opportunity to expose the brand. It grew our social media by like 50,000 like overnight again.
Yeah,
so again,
when that's aired,
a ton more customers
okay.
to engage with and sell to and bring value to as well. So
what were you doing to turn those thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of potential customers into customers? Or was it just constantly giving them great content?
Yeah, I think so. I think we had a product that was in demand at that stage. Like there wasn't a lot of people doing these elaborate cheesecakes. You know, we had a social media, so we had reach. You know, like I say, if we put out a post, that was going out to a lot of people. So we would be getting a percentage of orders of that, basically. It would convert based on the fact that we had bigger reach.
You were doing all this yourself, you know, with a team of people within the business, but did you then consider maybe getting a marketing team, maybe getting a PR agency or a branding agency to come and do this stuff for you? Were you like, we've done this, we continue to do it like that?
Yeah, we did. Like we worked with various PR agencies across along the way. One thing with PR that is really tough, I find, is just because, especially for a small business, like there's always a retainer. Like it's a $2,000, $2.5, $3,000 retainer. For a small business, you can't. It's really hard to track return on investment through PR. I find anyway. You get published in a newspaper or an article. You don't see sales straight away.
Yeah.
So it could be in 12 months. Or you don't know when it is. So I always found it a bit risky, and we dabbled with it a little bit, but we really tried to rely on our social media because it was free.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing around it. In terms of bringing more people on, it's always been tough because it started accidentally, because the business started accidentally, there was no strategy in place. So I was focused on these big cakes, which were great for Instagram, and they'd get the engagement. But to try and scale that was so challenging. So we started to do these trials across the country, send them via courier, because we couldn't build a fleet of vans. Another massive investment. And they were getting smashed up. That we couldn't get them to the customer. So that was like, how are we going to scale this? What do we need to focus on? And it kind of went through that process. We didn't have the capital there because we hadn't generated enough revenue to bring on like a ton of people. But then that creative side started coming in. So we've really started, at that point, probably started focusing on that innovation side of things. The different ways that we can produce cheesecake in formats that are scalable.
Yeah.
And that's when the minis started coming in. That's when the Pleesecakes. Pleesecakes was an idea back in March 2017, actually, but it looked like a choc ice. It looked like a odd thing.
So if we talk about then you're 2-3 years in, the innovation's already starting to happen. So you've got the Pleesecakes in your mind, and you know, you and I spoke before about your future plans, and obviously I'm excited to see them happen. So you jump forward, and we're faced with a pandemic where actually some businesses like Sofa Club, for example, who we've spoken to, and they had the best year they've ever had during the pandemic because coincidentally people wanted to do up their houses during the pandemic and therefore buy sofas. So how was Pleesecakes adjusting to this pandemic now where people are at home, or was that good for the business?
It was, yeah. It was an odd time, you know, like when it was March 2020, they sort of kicked in and everyone sort of started panicking. So all my chefs, the whole team, were scared for their health, basically. Yeah. So they all left, went home, and it was me, it was Dan, who was head of content, and his wife, Lils, in the kitchen making these cakes. We continued to operate, and it just got busier and busier and busier and busier because all the delivery platforms, the Just Eat, the Uber Eats, just got so busy. Direct to consumer was busy. We had some nationwide products by then, the minis and stuff. And it was super busy. It was just mad busy. We were only focused on the mini cheesecakes and the big cheesecakes. There was no events, there was no festivals, obviously. But it was a false high, you know, no one could, I think a lot of businesses thought, yeah, this is great, we're going to continue. They didn't really plan for when things opened up. They just wanted to continue operating, just be thankful that the business was still operating and that they were healthy and whatnot. But as soon as it stopped, it was just another sort of drastic change, you know, what we've seen over the last year or so has really affected small businesses. So it's been we've sort of scaled up, and then it's done this massive spike in COVID, and it's come back down, and now we've got the cost of living crisis, we've got inflation, we've got wars going on, we've got all sorts of things. So I think for business owners, it's all about adaptation. You know, we adapted to that situation in COVID. We focused on products that we could scale and distribute across the country. We were doing things like food boxes as well, so we're utilising our supply chain for pasta, rice, essentials for the vulnerable. We're helping out NHS. It was an odd time. I think it was an odd time for all of us, you know.
Do you think, your pandemic aside, do you think you're a better person for having gone through this journey with Pleesecakes? Obviously, you're a much more rounded, better entrepreneur than you would have been when you were in the painting business, because I don't want to look at spreadsheets when you're a painter and decorator. But now that's almost like bread and butter for you now, is looking at the P&L. And you and I have talked about not that long ago about that you come out of the kitchen, but now you're back in.
I'm now back in,
because of the crisis that we're currently going and the shortage of staff. So are you finding that you're a better entrepreneur now?
I'm able to adapt to any situation. My skin is thick. Like when there's a tough situation, I'd normally previously I'd take it not to heart, but I would stress about it. I'd get worked up about it. I'd maybe get anxiety about it. It'd affect my mental health more. Now I'm just like, cool. This is a challenge. This is part of the game. We need to try and work out how to overcome this problem.
It's
basically.
one of many
It's problem solving.
Right?
You're basically problem solving on a day-to-day basis. There's all different types of problems, whether it's with people internally, people externally, operations, social media, market, whatever it is, there's always going to be a problem. If you're naive enough to think there's not going to be, then you're going to kind of set yourself up for failure, I think, because it's not a bad thing. It's good to fail, but I think you learn to be adaptive, you learn to tackle problems, you learn to problem solve on a day-to-day basis. And I think you go from trying to scale up to trying to adapt to a pandemic, to try and adapt to the cost of living crisis and supply chain crisis and inflation. And it's just a constant thing. I think what I've learned is that it's never going to be easy.
And it's never going to end.
It's never going to be easy.
There's always challenges every day.
There's a recession on the way. Like, are we positioned correctly for a recession? Probably. Like, I think in the previous recession, champagne sales soared because people weren't going out, but they wanted a luxury at home. I think we could sit into that category.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think position-wise, it's just we've got two major things to overcome now, which is manufacturing and distribution, which is what we're working towards. So when we hit those, hopefully I can chill out a little bit. I haven't been on a holiday for about 5 years.
Legacy Travel Club.
Oh, please, I just need 2 weeks just to chill.
Oh, we'll look after you, don't worry. So a couple more things there. So before we finish up, so right now you're fundraising. Obviously, you're on your Seeders campaign is going to go live soon. By the time this is aired, it will probably be live, and you'll be flying and overfunding, which would be good news.
Hopefully,
so
fingers crossed.
Would you? I know that is a tough part of the founder's journey. Would you say, with your Pleesecakes experience, that has been the toughest challenge? Is the fundraising?
One of. I think I think there's never just one challenge. And or the toughest. There's always something else. I think the challenge, the fundraising is I've had various approaches to fundraising. So one previously about 6 months ago was focused on VCs and angels. Not the right time for us. I think it wasn't the right time. It's a draining process. You're going into all these VCs and angels with a different approach because they're all different. We had this community, so we should have crowdfunded first, probably that previously, a year ago or whatever. But the most testing part of running a bit, I suppose, is the day-to-day operation at this stage, the cash flow,
right,
and trying to battle that against the inflation or those sort of day-to-day pressures are probably more stressful than trying to fundraise. Fundraising is, especially through crowdfunding, I've had a better experience because I've got this team around me now. Yeah. So I've got a financial director who's doing all the financial side of the deck and the pitch and stuff like that. I've got a social media guy, Dan, who does the video all in-house. I was like, those sort of stresses, if I was a sole trader or a sole founder with no team, it would be much more stressful, I think. But now we're at a point where I can alleviate certain pressures and delegate certain jobs.
No regrets, so you're not up a ladder cutting in?
No, I don't dislike painting. It's just not a passion of mine,
Yeah.
I enjoy what I do. Not so much right now. It's stressful, but I could see that long-term vision. I think
one of the things that you're very generous with is your time. You give a lot to us, and you obviously do stuff with Vodafone. I think you've done stuff with Barclays, Virgin Startup. I think that will make you an even better entrepreneur down the line, is that you're giving your time up, and favourably that will hopefully come back and return that favour to you as well.
Oh yeah, I'm an advocate for supporting other small businesses. I've been, if I can shout out another business on our social media channel and expose them as well.
Let's talk. The Keelan one before we finish up.
There's been a few. Obviously, Keelan was one of them. He wrote me a handwritten note one day, and it caught my attention. I get a ton of handwritten notes now. Honestly, I do get a few, but it caught my attention. The story caught my attention, which is highlighted to me the importance of my story and our story, in terms of like there's value in that. Like people take more from that than you saying buy my cheesecake. You know, if they buy into your story or you as a person, they're more likely to support you and buy from you in the future. You know, so yeah, any sort of business like that, I really support and try and push out to our audience, and you make a change. Like you've seen Keelan's business grow a little bit, and it's not a Joe Wick shout out, because that literally will buckle you. But it gets people going. You know, it's that support that we need in this arena of small businesses. You know.
Well, let's finish on why we did this podcast in the first place. It's called Leave a Legacy. So if you walked away from Pleesecakes tomorrow, what would your legacy be? What would you be the most proud of that you'd leave behind?
I think just the passion, you know, the passion in what we do. I think I've got a small little team that don't get paid a lot just yet, because we can't afford to pay everyone a lot, but they're also passionate. They love what we do. They believe in the product. They believe in the brand. They believe in the purpose. And I think that's been installed from myself. You know, if it didn't start from myself, I don't think that would have been sort of run through the company. You know, so yeah, probably the passion.
Love it, Joe Moruzzi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Nice one.